Welcome back to Colonial Downs for day number 2 of our 15-day meet. Merv, we're already like 7% of the way done with the meet. Opening day was
Feels
fantastic.
like we hardly started.
Yeah, opening day was fantastic, right? No, we're of course taping before opening day. We're going to try to tape these hopefully posted 24 hours or more out. I think generally the Friday ones will be the ones where you have the most lead up time. But we're playing it by ear here. But again, so we're talking about these races for day 2 without knowing what happened day 1. So obviously our opinions could change. But to me, instead of just having a one-off show, now we could just kind of have an ongoing conversation.
Yep.
So let's get talking about these races. 9 races, so a little bit of a shorter night on a Friday. Of course, Saturday we have 11 races. 2 of them are steeplechase races. So if you're into the steeplechase, they're races 1 and 3 on Saturday. I've never called a steeplechase. We had 2 scheduled at Monmouth and they got rained out.
Yeah, and I've never actually handicapped a steeplechase race for a program or a paddock show either. So it'll be interesting all the way around. If you have any strong opinions on those, please share those with us.
I know. I was thinking about for tomorrow's pregame show, do we talk about those? Because I certainly feel in no way any kind of authority to speak on them.
We may just have to say, if you're in it for the entertainment value,
well,
having us kind of educate ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, skip ahead and we'll annotate it for you.
Because we certainly want to give the race the attention they deserve. But I think we're going to be talking about it as neophytes. So.
And we'll be upfront about it.
One thing we're not.
But if I pick a winner,
then
I'm an expert.
Redboard City. Merv, the opener on the card, again, the early daily double. We have 2 daily doubles at Colonial, the first 2 and the last 2. Kind of old school in that sense, which I, like I said, in a weird way I kind of like. But starting off, maiden claiming event, $40,000. Outer turf, again, outer turf for the turf sprints and for the real longer turf races. Inner turf will generally be those mile and a 16th turf races. So we are on the outer turf to kick off the Friday program. And how'd you see the first race?
Oh, tough to figure out. All these are first-time starters except for the 2 on the inside.
Outside. This is.
Sorry, I was just looking at this one. The 2 on the inside from Charlestown, and then Chaos Kid. He's anything but a first-time starter. He's 7 starts already for a 2-year-old.
And been consistent. Been second 3 straight times and 4 out of 5.
5 money finishes there. I thought the 8 Pacquiao kind of looked interesting here. I liked the work pattern going into this race. Liked the pedigree a little bit on him as well. Comes down from Belmont. So I gave him a slight edge in what I thought was a very evenly matched race.
To me, Chaos Kid is the kind of favorite that I want to go against every time. One of those times he's going to beat you, but he's going to be a low price when he does it, and I'm so happy to let those kind beat me.
7 starts and he hasn't found the winner's circle yet.
Well, and he's been close, but now he's actually going back up in price. Now, granted, he had been running maiden specials at PID, but dropped down, and that was kind of the money run. He actually got disqualified from second because he was pushing one of his rivals around. But again, these are just the kind that I think are just always so good to go against. What about some of the first timers? There's a number of those. Again, I didn't love the Colonial or the Charlestown race that we saw at 4.5 furlongs, so you didn't get to see a whole lot. But both these 2 were kind of chasing the leader and faded.
Yeah.
So they kind of run a similar race.
Yeah, there was nothing much that I liked about either one of those, so I did kind of try to look for some of the first-time starters, and I ended up going with the connections that I thought were going to be the strongest here. Dane Kabisky's horse, the 7 Hopper Phil, and then the Stidham, the 4 Dynaform.
They paid a lot of money for the 3 Mun Passage, which is interesting. Michael Campbell, not a big barn, just 32 starts on the year, but they paid $125,000, and they land Jose Valdivia, who's the lead rider in Chicago.
Yeah, were there any pedigrees that stood out to you in terms of something that the turf?
You are asking the wrong guy.
Because it looked like a lot of dirt pedigrees to me when I was looking at it.
Pedigree is just not my thing at all. That's why I kind of never have opinions in these races, because I just don't have the information for it. Or the experience, so I will default to you when it comes to pedigree stuff. And I know you had some pedigree nerd moments in this card in particular, right?
I do, yeah. Stay tuned.
Please don't tune out. Merv, let's move on to race. What was your top pick? You went 8, 7, and 4.
8, 7, 4.
Okay. The second race on the card. We got to make sure to say that at the end of each race. People want the picks, Merv. Second race, inner turf, and we're at a mile here, and. Field of 8 here, so again we start off with a couple of not huge fields but good quality. There's nothing worse than starting the card off with 3 6s, and so I'm glad that we're still able to to have some pretty good races in the early daily double. How'd you see race 2?
I spent a lot of time looking at this race, trying to decipher it. I ended up landing on the 6 Dilly Does It, which I love that name.
Yeah.
Liked that race last time at Tampa. At this level, second after being competitive all the way throughout. I thought that if she is able to place herself in the same way in this race, I thought she'd be really competitive.
Yeah, I feel like Shipman's magic is the speed, right? There's really not a lot of early pace, and so I think Dilly Does It sits in second, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, did you think Shipman's Magic was going to be able to stretch out? I saw that mile race where it looks like she just wasn't able to hang.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think from the early perspective, you're going to see that one up on the lead. Bessiker, the owner, we see a lot of his horses at Monmouth with Navarro, generally hits at a very high rate. A claiming kind of owner who... will spot his horses where they can win, and you can see this horse almost always takes money. Is 6 to 1, 8 to 1, 5 to 1, 3 to 1, 5 to 1. So generally in pretty accurate, good spots. But yeah, I just think that they're going to try to get the lead with that horse. Whether or not they can keep it, I don't know. I thought maybe Afar is one that could be pretty close up. Is stretching out, but has been primarily a dirt horse. But that first turf effort wasn't that bad.
She jumped up a lot. I mean, 94 to 1 she went off that day and she finished third in her first turf start. So she clearly liked it.
Yeah.
So I was giving her a shot in here. I thought that she would stand a chance to stretch out. I also liked the one, actually, just her 3 most recent races all on grass, all at Tampa. She's taking a considerable drop in class. She was last out at the $25,000 claiming level, now in for 10, and won at the $16,000 level 3 back. So it gave her a shot as well.
That Tampa race was live too. Second and third place finishers both came back to win. And to me, Tampa horses, a lot of times the purses aren't all that big, especially you'll see the maiden special weight, in contrast to some of the real big circuits. But you'll see the maiden special weights are like 23,000 or something like that. And I feel like sometimes people dismiss, there's some good horses down at Tampa Bay Downs.
Those races come up salty.
Yeah, and so I think that you're right in making that one lower on the morning line too. I think the I Got a White Face is going to take a fair bit of money, but I thought there was a few different ways you could kind of look outside of the favorites in here. And like I said, Shipman's Magic, I'm not sold on, and I would be letting that one beat me.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think she'll be out there early.
Yeah. The third race on the card, we're staying on the inner turf again. We're on the turf the rest of the weekend, all of Friday, all of Saturday, and a lot of inner turf 1 mile, mile and a 16th races on this card in particular. And a small field, just a field of 6 in here, which to me is going to be interesting from a tactical standpoint, right? We're going to be loaded and barraged with these big, huge full fields that often are going to have possibly contentious paces, but a little bit of a small one here and an interesting little race.
Yeah, well, my pedigree nerd can come out for this race. I liked the 6th Fair-Haired Boy because he comes from the female family of Wise Dan. Carsona's Promise, his dam is a half to Lisa Danielle, who's the dam of Wise Dan and Successful Dan, a few Dans actually. So I thought a mile on turf was probably a good place for this one to start.
Now, this was one where we were looking at the morning line. I wrote you and said, why are you making this horse so low? Especially with Cadet Connolly, who's coming off a very strong second place finish at Presque Isle Downs in a maiden special weight event. Again, the synthetic often will transfer over to the turf okay. And I was just like, Steve Glaceris is not, he's 4% with firsters. It's not like his great area. The workouts are just okay. Like, why are you making this horse so low? But for you think it's a breeding play?
It is, and I didn't have anything wrong with the workouts either. It was a consistent workout pattern coming into this race, so it'll be interesting to see what those odds end up at. I agree, Cadet Conley definitely going to take some money, and also...
The 4 is going to take some money, right?
I think all those 3 outside horses definitely going to take some money. I like the pedigree on both the 4 and the 5, and they both have colonial connections, actually. So Channel Lady was actually a graded stakes winner here at Colonial Downs in the last season. She won the...
I was not aware of that.
And the dam of the 4, also a stakes winner at Colonial in the last season.
Yeah, Bridalwood Farm and Matticat Stable, some big-time owners. Jonathan Thomas, certainly a Grade 1 winning trainer. Of course, Catholic boy, one of his big stars. And as my Brisnet PP says, breeding suggests he will like the grass.
At Colonial. I'll add that on there.
We'll find out. The 4th race on the program, again, staying at that mile race. It's gonna be a little bit repetitive in the distance and surface here, but 25,000, not winner of 2 for the fillies and mares. A field of 7 in here. This was one of those races where we talked about not a lot separating favorite to longest shot. And I think I actually made one of my program price plays with the number 1 Pass It On, who's going to be one of the longest shots, is dropping significantly in class and has some past form that I think makes it competitive. But it just seems everybody's kind of speed figure wise in the same area.
We talked about this race for kind of a long time the other night. It was just hard to find some separation. What I ended up finding, though, was I thought I found Lone Speed at the 4, Princess Phone. Just the only one that really looked like she was going to go out there and kind of have it her own way. Mm-hmm. So I ended up landing on her for Dane Kubisky. Liked the only turf start that she's got on her record.
Yeah.
That starter 50 at Churchill Downs. I think if she runs back to that race, she'll be really strong.
Yeah, I'm real curious to see, because the Churchill horses have been going everywhere and winning. And so I'm really curious to see if that is a pattern that continues here at Colonial. Dean Sarvis, we should know, pretty much coming back to ride for Kubisky. I was talking to his agent in the backstretch of the day. Hasn't ridden, I think, in about a year and a half. Was a longtime guy at Turfway, River Downs. I used to call him at River Downs. And now back, he's got his same old agent from back in the day. And so they are here to ride for Kubisky. Kubisky, to me, always seems like a guy that goes, when he gets hot, he gets real hot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, his numbers aren't, he hasn't actually started a ton this year. I remember when I got to Gulfstream West last year, he won 3 the first weekend I was there, and it just seemed every horse that he had was jumping up and running big. But, my thought on a race is when I think they're all even like this, I'm going to just go towards the bigger prices, and that's why I kind of was intrigued by the 1. But I'm really curious to see how this board plays out, because like you said, we had so much trouble in the morning line just separating.
Who do you think will
top
go
and
off
bottom.
favored?
Well, I think I kind of agreed with you, right? Like, didn't we kind of come to a who did you put? The 2, right? Is who you made the morning line favorite?
I believe so.
Yeah, City Fun. And again, God, I don't know, maybe it doesn't. I kind of could see the 3 taking some money just because the class drop, and the effort 3 back was really, really good. The 4 I could see is being fair. Like I said, this was a really tough race. I'm glad I don't have to do the morning line. And if you have morning line complaints, at Merv Huber on Twitter. But a tough race, but these are the fun ones.
Yeah, I think City Fun is likely to go off favorite.
Yeah.
Just won for 40 at Monmouth, now dropping in for 25. I made her the morning line favorite. I think that's where the money will go.
We'll have a couple of lower priced favorites later in the card Friday and on Saturday, right? Because I feel like Thursday there was that first time starter that was 8-5, but there was not a lot of standouts on the
very
card,
competitive racing.
at least from an odds standpoint. I don't know if that is going to be as true in our 5th race, Merv, maiden 50,000. So this race does start the pick 5, 12% takeout on that wager. Again, as we said on yesterday's show, the pick 5, 12%, much ballyhooed, much talk about, will always be on the final 5 races of the card. So it's not an early pick 5, it's always a late pick 5. But Virginia restricted maidens, and we talked a little bit about on yesterday's show. We should mention it again. The Virginia breeding thing is a little different because there's a certified bred. It's essentially if a horse spent 6 months consecutive in Virginia before December 31st of its 2-year-old season, it is a certified Virginia bred. And so if you're looking at the program and you're saying, why is this Kentucky bred running in a Virginia bred race? That is why. It means the horse spent some time here. So, but how did you see this race, Merv?
I like one of those Kentucky breds, actually, the 6 Speed Ahead. This is a very nice pedigree out of.
This was another one I told you that was I wouldn't have had the morning.
You're
line
like, why so low?
Yeah. So if I'm right on that.
Well, Colstar won the Flower Bowl, Grade 1 winner on the grass, so that immediately stood out to me, and comes in with some nice workouts, including a bullet move over this Colonial track. So that's where I went in here. I think did I make her the morning line favorite?
Yeah.
On the strength of that pedigree. So we'll see how many pedigree players there are here.
I thought the 1 Passion Play would be the favorite. You made her the very close second choice, the Dallas Stewart horse. Again, a horse who's had a lot of chances, but it's been keeping some really tough company, and those are really tough maiden special weights at Keeneland and Churchill. And so getting not only possibly a circuit relief in a sense, also getting a restricted race now, and so I think it's going to make a big difference for this horse. And the first turf race was not bad. I mean, it was a decent effort, finishing 4th out of 12, and I just thought
winner came back to win again.
Yeah, and so I really like that horse. I'm real interested to see what Talaga Bay does. So Talaga Bay, I called at Monmouth a few times. Rarely took money. Shanduski comes down to ride this one from Monmouth Park, and so but some of its efforts are competitive. The 1-3 back on May 19th, the horse led in mid-stretch and kind of battled in not the best of spots. They didn't go that fast that day, but to me, sometimes the time is way less important than the pressure. And I think that day the horse had that, it was stuck on the inside of another rival, and to me that's always more, often more damaging to the horse's last furlong than maybe a faster pace when they're by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, deceptively good efforts maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe he'll like the cutback in distance a little bit? I see a 1.25 mile race on there. If you look all the way back to last year, it ran okay in a sprint stakes race as a maiden.
Yeah, I mean, the horse has a little bit of speed, and like I said, it's interesting that Shannon comes down. She's not a high percentage rider, but and it's a low percentage barn, and so that's why I'm curious to see what kind of odds it gets, just because I think on form, I think it fits kind of where you have it, but from low profile connections, the price could float up a little bit. So curious to see how this race plays out. Wanted to mention Noble Descent on the outside. Bernard Houghton, very strong percentage barn. Forrest Boyce, very good rider, drawn on the outside. I feel like this one could be maybe the forgotten one in the field a little bit, because the last effort wasn't half bad. Any thoughts?
Good luck with that one.
You disagree? Okay, that's fine. I don't know. I just thought, because I think there's a few in here that I don't think are going to show much, and there's a few first timers from kind of more obscure barns, and so that's why I was just thinking if that one gets left out and the price floats up a little bit, it could be an exotic spicer. Late pick 4 time as we go to the 6th race on the card, 5,000 non-winners of the year, and to me this is one of those ones where when I'm handicapping non-winners of the year, I always want to look to see when they won their last race, because sometimes you might see a horse that won its last race, they just haven't started in the last year, but and it's since February 9th, so that it's not actually non-winners of the year, it's non-winners of 7 months or whatever, but it's abbreviated non-winners of the year. But anyways, you can kind of find a lot of hidden class drops, because an open 5,000 is way tougher than this generally. So I thought it was kind of a fun little puzzle. I love these kind of races. This is where I grew up, Portland Meadows. This is my wheelhouse. So,
yeah.
But where'd you see it?
No, I spent some good time talking about this race with Jill Byrne the other night too, and we both kind of landed independently on the same horse, Miss Asia Brown.
Yeah, that's where I ended.
This is not
all that talking. We're all like so unoriginal.
Could be a heavy favorite in here, and it turns out because this is not really a hidden class drop. This is a very open, very obvious class drop, going from open 10-5 to conditioned 5. Doesn't look good on paper the last couple, but just this horse just consistently has good speed. I think she just at this level is just a very obvious pick.
My general thought is when you get cheaper races, is that they tend to not close as much, because I think a lot of times it's not so much a talent thing, it's a heart thing, and so they just don't have that grit and determination. And to me, if I can see a horse that's going to be turning for home and front in these cheaper races, I'm way more likely to be interested in them. And I think there could be some excuses made for speed coming from the 2 inside runners. Single Mission for Jamie Ness is dropping in terms of claiming price. Non-winners of 2 versus non-winners of the year, it kind of depends. I think that's maybe where you use speed figures to kind of gauge the level they belong at. But I thought that horse was a little bit of an interesting price horse. Now, you made the entry pretty low on the morning line. You made them 2-1.
Yeah, I liked Chesapeake Spring in here. I thought that was the stronger half of the entry.
Very consistent, at least.
Yeah.
Which at this level is...
Second going 5 furlongs in the last 2. Now stretches out to a mile. Hasn't done that in a while.
And when didn't run all that bad.
No, yeah, and I think...
at Laurel.
Yeah, and this is another one you said, kind of a hidden class drop, right? Open 8 last time, now going down to conditioned 5. So that one stood out. I think that one will take some money.
Yeah, the entry, both halves of them coming out of open 8 races, but Medi Bumps, the plain one, ran much worse. But has run well going a distance on the grass before. In fact, this horse, Medi Bumps, a year ago would be a 1-9 shot in this race, right? I mean, there's the efforts at Pimlico and Laurel back in late in mid 2018. I mean, then the speed figures are really high, compared to what she's facing. But she's 7. Start 33 is
Been through a few barns
been
too.
through a few barns. I feel like a wake up is doubtful for me.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll say that.
agreed. The other horse I kind of liked in here was the 9 Detail. Really liked that race last time. Just like Miss Asia Brown dropping from open 10 to conditioned 5.
Now we got to be careful. Detail is the 8 because your PP's got all the A's and B's and stuff.
Oh yeah, right,
So
right.
yeah,
Sorry.
Detail is the number 8 horse.
Yeah, Detail, the 8. Just beating a length last time at what is perceived to be a much tougher race. So I kind of liked that one as well.
Let's move on to the 7th race. We start the late pick 3. Again, not rolling pick 3s either, so the pick 3s are going to be a little bit more, less of them, so hopefully more money in those pools and a little bit more of a special occurrence when we do see them. But again, we've seen this common distance. We'll see it a lot on Friday night, the 1 mile on the inner turf course. Big field here, though, and again, we're a couple with an entry, the 1 and 1A, Panama Papers and Stormy Forecast in here. This is not the one with the 2B, but so 10 betting interests in this one as we start the late pick 3.
Yep, and I landed on the far outside, the 10 Atlantic Sun. Just thought this one had the best speed. Just the only drawback was that drew to the outside. The way the turf course is configured, they don't have a great deal of distance to run when they get to that turn. So that was the only concern I had here. Otherwise, I thought this was a standout.
Yeah, I think certainly from a speed. I mean, that's going to be the interesting thing. I mean, we're talking about these races before opening night, so we don't know. Opening night maybe speed was lethal, and now Atlantic Sun's going to be 6 to 5 instead of 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever. And so, going to be real interesting to see how things play out with that. So yeah, I thought this was. I was a little chalky in this race too. I'm not going to lie.
Who'd you land on?
I thought that horse is going to be very, very tough, and so unfortunately not the most imaginative in this race. But Pendrell Moon was kind of the other one I thought was a little bit interesting, but is also a short price. And so it was just a race where I was uncreative, and to me those two look like the most consistent, and they just kind of looked the fastest.
Yeah. Well, in terms of most consistent, I really liked this Secret Lifestyle.
Yeah.
Last 6 starts, been in the money. 8 of last 10, been in the top 3.
Yep.
Now, it's kind of, fits at this level, I think. Last time, 7,500. Now up to 10. It'll be interesting to see that Prairie Meadows form. I think is this the first Prairie Meadows horse that we've seen?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. From Prairie Meadows in Iowa.
Yeah, but if you look back, you see some good Tampa form. Tampa on the turf as well. So I gave that horse a good shot.
The 8th race, do we count this as the feature, Merv? $40,000 option
so.
line 1 to 2 for a $70,000 pot, and I mentioned another entry in here, and I think a pretty strong entry. I think these two are going to take some money. Winter Union was running in a grade 3, 2 starts back behind Zulu Alpha. I mean, Red Knight, Solio, some of the horses you see in the PPs, not just PPs, but the recent PPs, Argonne. Those are really, really good New York types. And Positivist was well beaten in a stake last time, but prior to that had been pretty consistent. I think the entry is certainly going to get some attention in here.
Yeah, I think so too. And I was a chalk eater. I just couldn't get away from Winter Union in here, which I thought was the stronger half of the entry. It's a strong entry, but I thought Winter Union was definitely the one to beat in here. Just been running against much better, I thought.
Yeah, Grant Motion's got one in here that we know is going to take some money. Scholar Athlete, who hasn't been all that great in the last couple. Went to Woodbine, went to Prescott. Has kind of been well traveled. This horse has seen a number of tracks. I thought Color Guard warranted some inclusion. I mean, it seems like this race for our turf races is going to see a fair bit of pace, and it's an outer turf race. It's at 1 mile and 8, so it's around the big course. And I thought there was a lot of horses that looked like they might try to go to the lead here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Scholar Athlete, that last race I just drew a line through because it was on the synthetic.
Yeah.
Get back to the turf races, it was running really well. Opposite is true for Color Guard, right? The one turf race that I see on this record, not very good.
Yeah. What about the 8 Changey or Jangy? I haven't looked up the name yet, but kind of ran a couple of good ones in a row. One on the synthetic, and not 1 or 2. I mean, for 35,000 is obviously much different than what they're going to find today. But I don't know. I just thought a couple of good efforts and figures to be a huge price. Just seems like the horse woke up when they got off of the main track.
Yeah, and another kind of horse I think might be a little bit of a price. The 2 Deposit.
Yeah. We got to get your current PPs.
Yeah, I know. I've been using these for a few days now.
Yeah.
Won first 2 starts, then actually went to Laurel, which is kind of a better circuit. I don't think it ran bad.
Yeah.
Only beaten 8 lengths. I think I'd be willing to give this one another shot if the price is right.
The 9th and final, rather, a big 14-horse field of non-winners of the year, 5,000 runners. Again, the 1 mile on the turf. I have 2 long shots that I really like in this race. I'm curious where you ended up in here.
Well, I went all the way to the outside, Zen's Land. I don't know that you're going to get much value on this one. And I don't like that he's all the way on the outside with the way that mile is configured.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they have some time, but those turns are pretty sharp. So if you do get hung out, I think it's bad news.
Yeah, it could potentially be bad news. But we mentioned a few races back the drop from open claimers to these conditioned 5, and this is a prime example. He ran so well at the open 10 last time out, just beating a length at Delaware. So as he gets back to conditioned 5, I just thought he was going to be really strong in here.
Let me get my 2 bombers, Merv. Number 10, My Lure, is 12-1 on the line with Caramanos. Kent Sweezy, I mentioned on yesterday's show. I'm a fan, but the horse has been competing just against better at Monmouth and has been, running okay. Then the last couple didn't go so well. So to me, it's a drop that makes sense. It's them trying to wake the horse up. He seems best if he gets out toward the lead. There seems like, Odlum is certainly a speed horse, the number 7. But outside of that, there's not a ton of early gas for 14 horses. It's kind of like the first race on opening day, where it's this huge field, but it doesn't look like anybody really. I mean, I really think those 2 are kind of 2 of the only ones that might want to go.
Yeah, I liked Odlum for that reason. I thought he might be the best speed in there and be able to establish himself early.
My crazy long shot is the 9 Blue Bridge Scout for Ollie Figgins, who's a very, very good barn. J.D. Acosta getting aboard. The last 3 or 4 or 5 have not been very good, but they've been against way tougher. Now, they did drop the last couple times, but both those were on dirt, and so I feel like this is a horse who's run quite a bit on turf, at least in recent memory, and a lot of his better efforts were on the grass, and so getting back to the grass, the drop in class, and I think is going to be a really big price. I thought worth a shot.
These pick 5s are not ending on easy races.
No, they're not. And a lot of people will, as they're going through their tickets, they're going to be, okay, I'm going 3 deep. First leg 2, okay, I got to be narrow, and then you get to the 14-horse field, and maybe not so easy. So the pick 5 players, I'm really curious to see how that pool goes and how it takes shape, because there are some tough sequences both nights. And so
share your tickets with us.
Yeah, find us on Twitter. We're easy to get a hold of. He's at Merv Huber. I'm at Beem Awards, and we'll see you guys back for racing Saturday, because we're running Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 o'clock every night. There had been a schedule with Labor Day, no more.
Nope.
Only Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like I said, we'll try to have these shows out to you at least 24 hours in advance, so that way you can A, watch, B, participate via email, Twitter, whatever, and just taking a little bit of a different approach, because I feel like normally these shows are done half hour, 40 minutes before post time. You have to kind of rush through, and most people are watching Saratoga at that time anyways.
We'll give you plenty of time to give us hell on Twitter.
Yeah, all right. We'll see you guys back tomorrow.